Hello and welcome to our learning series on Agile transformation, a learning series brought to you by Sternbridge Technology Consulting. I'm the host, Kenny Gibbons, and I'll be taking you through this learning course. Welcome back to the Agile Transformation Learning Series. In this session, we are going to build on the Scrum foundations already covered and move into several topics that become increasingly important once teams begin applying Scrum in real delivery environments. Foundational Scrum is usually easy to understand at a high level. The real challenge comes when teams need to execute consistently, work cross-functionally, manage a growing backlog, and plan sprints based on real-world constraints. These topics matter because Scrum is not only a meeting structure. Scrum is a way of organizing people, decisions, and work so that value can be delivered iteratively and predictably. The better a team understands these operating mechanics, the more effective Scrum becomes. To begin, it is useful to ground ourselves in the core rhythm of Scrum. Scrum works through short, repeatable cycles of planning, designing, developing, testing, and deploying. Rather than trying to define and deliver everything up front, the team works in increments. Each sprint creates an opportunity to clarify priorities, build a smaller slice of value, review what was produced, and adjust based on feedback. That iterative rhythm is what makes Scrum powerful. It creates faster learning, greater transparency, and more flexibility when needs change. At the same time, that rhythm only works well when the team has the right roles in place, a healthy backlog, and a realistic approach to sprint commitment. That is where today's topics come in. Let's start with roles. Most people learn Scrum through its three core roles: the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the developers. Those are still the structural anchors of Scrum. The product owner is responsible for maximizing value and prioritizing work. The Scrum Master supports the team and protects the Scrum process. Developers are accountable for creating the increment of value in each sprint. In practice, however, many delivery teams need more than those three roles to work effectively. That is especially true in enterprise, technical, or regulated environments. Teams often rely on a broader set of contributors to refine requirements, shape user experience, enable deployment, and support compliance needs. These are what many organizations think of as extended Scrum roles. One important extended role is the business analyst. The business analyst often helps translate product direction into more detailed, actionable backlog content. This role can support the product owner by clarifying requirements, organizing stakeholder input, and helping define the functional detail needed for development. In some environments, the product owner owns the what and the priority, while the business analyst helps elaborate the how of business process detail and acceptance clarity. A strong business analyst helps prevent ambiguity from entering the sprint. For example, if a team is building a login feature, the business analyst may help define the detailed requirements, document the expected user flow, clarify edge cases, and shape the acceptance criteria. That work reduces confusion for the team and improves the quality of sprint planning. It also helps ensure the backlog item is mature enough to be developed without excessive rework. Another valuable role is user experience, or UX. Scrum teams sometimes move quickly into development and discover too late that the product does not meet user needs in a practical way. UX helps prevent that. This role focuses on the human side of the product: who the users are, what they need, how they behave, what frustrates them, and how the product experience should be designed to support them. A UX contributor might conduct interviews, define personas, create workflows, sketch concepts, or produce low-fidelity and high-fidelity mockups. That work helps the team validate ideas before development begins. Instead of building first and discovering issues later, the team can test the concept early. This reduces waste and increases the chance that what gets built is useful and intuitive. DevOps is another extended role that becomes essential as teams mature. Scrum teams are expected to deliver working software iteratively, but that only works if the engineering pathway from code to deployment is stable and repeatable. DevOps supports that pathway. This role helps establish pipelines, infrastructure, automation, environment management, and engineering standards that make delivery reliable. DevOps often includes responsibilities such as creating deployment pipelines, configuring environment settings, enabling code quality checks, supporting observability, and building infrastructure needed for the application to run. This role is especially important because agile delivery without engineering discipline often creates speed in the short term and instability in the long term. DevOps helps the team scale delivery quality, not only delivery pace. In regulated or controlled environments, compliance also becomes an important supporting role. Compliance ensures the team understands and follows the required development process, documentation expectations, and approval obligations tied to the software being built. In some industries, teams must produce traceability, testing evidence, validation records, or documented approvals. These expectations cannot be treated as afterthoughts. A strong compliance contributor helps the team work correctly from the start, rather than retrofitting documentation and controls later. This role may guide the team on required artifacts, review documentation quality, identify missing evidence, or support approval workflows. The value of this role is not bureaucracy for its own sake. The value is making sure the team can move forward with confidence in environments where process quality matters. Taken together, these extended roles reinforce a broader point. Scrum works best when delivery teams are cross-functional enough to move work from idea to usable outcome with minimal friction. The exact mix of roles will vary by context, but the principle stays the same. Teams need the right capabilities around the core Scrum structure to deliver value consistently. From roles, we move into backlog management. The backlog is one of the most important operational tools in Scrum. A simple definition is that the backlog is the prioritized list of work to be completed by the team. In practice, however, a backlog is much more than a list. It is the team's working representation of value, priority, scope, and readiness. A backlog should contain all meaningful work that takes time from the team. That includes user stories, technical tasks, defects, and sometimes dependencies or supporting work that affects delivery. One common mistake is treating the backlog as a feature list only. When that happens, teams lose visibility into the true demand on their time. A healthy backlog reflects reality. User stories are often the most familiar backlog item type. A user story expresses functionality from a user or stakeholder perspective. It captures what someone needs and why it matters. This keeps attention on value rather than only on technical implementation. Tasks are also important. Not all valuable work is a user-facing feature. Teams often need to complete technical or operational activities that support delivery. Those may include training, documentation, architecture work, or diagram creation. Defects represent issues that need correction. These might come from a prior sprint, testing feedback, or production support. Dependencies represent work that relies on another team, platform, or function. Even if the team cannot fully execute the dependency themselves, they still need visibility into it because it affects planning and risk. Effective backlog management requires more than item capture. It requires prioritization, organization, and disciplined refinement. Backlog items should be continually reviewed and reprioritized based on current value. Priority is not static. Teams learn, business needs change, and new information emerges. A backlog must remain dynamic. Items should also be organized into larger structures, such as epics, features, or work packages. This provides context and helps the team trace how individual items connect to broader outcomes. Good organization also supports reporting, roadmap alignment, and maintenance over time. Another important principle is size. Backlog items should be small enough to move through the workflow efficiently. If an item is too large, it becomes difficult to estimate, difficult to complete in a sprint, and difficult to test. Smaller items improve flow and create clearer progress. A good working rule is that an item should usually be completable within a sprint, and ideally within a few days of focused effort. This is also where the definition of ready becomes useful. A definition of ready is a set of criteria that help the team determine whether a backlog item is mature enough to be considered during sprint planning. This does not need to be overly rigid, but it should create enough discipline that the team is not pulling incomplete work into the sprint. Typical ready criteria might include linkage to a feature or epic, an estimate, defined acceptance criteria, design input if needed, open questions answered, and any necessary documentation considerations addressed. The value of a definition of ready is simple. It reduces uncertainty. Teams spend less sprint time figuring out what an item means and more time actually delivering it. A strong backlog item usually contains several pieces of information. It has a clear name and identifier. It has a priority. It has an estimate. It is linked to a broader feature area. It has a description that explains the user or business need. It contains acceptance criteria that define what success looks like. It may also include an attached design or reference material if the team needs that to move effectively. Acceptance criteria deserve special attention because they are one of the clearest ways to align understanding across roles. Strong acceptance criteria define how the team and stakeholders will know the item is complete and correct. Good acceptance criteria improve development clarity, testing quality, and stakeholder confidence. Backlog discipline has a direct effect on sprint execution. Teams with unclear backlogs spend sprint time reinterpreting work, clarifying missing requirements, and resolving avoidable misunderstandings. Teams with strong backlogs are able to move faster with more confidence and less friction. That takes us into sprint planning. Sprint planning is where the team selects the work it intends to deliver in the next sprint. This is often misunderstood as a simple prioritization session. In reality, sprint planning is a balancing exercise between value and capacity. The team needs to understand what is most important, what is ready, and what is realistically achievable. One of the biggest planning mistakes teams make is overcommitting. This usually happens for one of two reasons. Either the team tries to satisfy every high priority request, or the team bases the sprint plan on ideal productivity rather than actual availability. Both approaches create unstable sprints. A better approach starts with capacity. Capacity planning means understanding how much time and effort the team can realistically apply during the sprint. That includes looking at each team member's availability. Vacation, holidays, training, support responsibilities, reduced allocation, and other commitments all affect sprint capacity. If those factors are ignored, the sprint plan becomes a wish list rather than a delivery plan. Capacity should also be considered by role, not only by total team size. For example, a team may have strong developer capacity but constrained tester capacity. In that case, the sprint plan may still fail if testing becomes a bottleneck. Scrum planning needs to reflect how work actually flows through the team. When the Scrum Master or team prepares capacity before planning, the sprint conversation becomes much more grounded. Rather than asking, "How much do we want to get done?" the team asks, "Given our real availability, what can we finish at a quality level we can stand behind?" During sprint planning, the team reviews prioritized backlog items and selects work that fits within available capacity. Estimates help the team compare work size to available effort. Priority helps the team decide what should come first. Readiness helps the team avoid pulling in unclear items. Together, these elements support a more achievable sprint plan. The goal is not to fill every available hour. The goal is to make a credible commitment. A good sprint plan creates enough stretch to deliver meaningful value while leaving enough realism to maintain quality and predictability. A capacity-based sprint plan also creates healthier team dynamics. Teams that overcommit frequently often experience carryover, rushed work, incomplete testing, and frustration. Teams that plan well tend to complete more of what they commit, improve trust with stakeholders, and create more stable delivery patterns over time. As teams continue sprinting, a broader rhythm begins to form. Planning is followed by execution. Grooming or refinement prepares future work. Demos provide transparency into what was delivered. Retrospectives help the team reflect and improve. Over multiple sprints, this creates a continuous learning loop. That continuous learning loop is one of the most valuable parts of Scrum. Teams do not become effective because they memorize the framework. Teams become effective because they use the framework to inspect, adapt, and improve how work moves through the system. This is an important point to end on. Advanced Scrum is not about making Scrum more complicated. Advanced Scrum is about making Scrum more practical. As work becomes more complex, teams need more clarity around who contributes, how work is prepared, and how commitments are made. Extended roles support stronger delivery. Backlog discipline supports stronger flow. Capacity-based planning supports stronger execution. If there is one lesson to carry forward from this session, it is that strong Scrum performance depends on operational clarity. Teams need clarity in roles, clarity in backlog quality, and clarity in what can realistically be delivered in a sprint. Thank you for joining this session on advanced Scrum topics. In the next episode, we will continue building practical Agile capabilities that help teams move from theory into confident execution. As always, I'm Kenny Gibbons, and thanks for listening to our course on Agile transformation. Hope you have a great day.